Hello. This is Junpei from Saw. Hey there, we'll be starting officially in just a sec. Sweet. I can't wait to start making our crime scene. Sup? Heyo. Crime time. I posted in the something awful thread that we were live. I see you doing stuff, but I don't hear you saying anything. All right, we need a name for our corpse. Audio not there? We can hear a bot saying the stuff here out loud. But if you're saying anything we can't hear it. Okay. Crap. One sec, I'll try to fix it.
Testing audio.
Hear you. We hear you.
Yay! Fucking technology, man. Okay, well, since it seems like I wasn't doing anything, what we did there was select the freeze tool. And when you do that, that means that whatever you select will not move. It's really easy when you're working on larger spaces to grab the wrong thing, like the base, and move it, and then do a sculpt. And you can undo it, but then you'd have to undo all of your sculpts. And we don't want to do that. So this will now not move no matter what we do to it, which is good. And so, to give you an idea of the scope, so you have this box here.
So, that blue block is our floor?
Yes, the blue block is the floor. Now, just to show you what we've got here, let's see, I believe it's a gadget. And gameplay gear. So, this is your basic puppet. Now, you can tweak these in all sorts of different ways, and I'll show that off in a later stream. But this gives you kind of an idea of the scale. So we're going to need to make this play area just a little bit bigger. We don't need to make it huge because every area in the game that we're going to do is going to be a separate sort of level. Oh, one other thing I want to show off. Let's see. Guides. So there are different types of guides you can use. Let's see.
You're using those PS4 VR versions of Joy-Cons, right?
Yeah, the moves, I have the older versions. So they use the they use the PS3 basically version of the USB port. So it's kind of a pain in the butt because I have to use a separate charger to plug them in. I can't use what I use for my DS4. And so there's our puppet. We'll be basing all of our people when we make them off of this guy right here. It's got all the logic built into it, and does a lot of things. as a matter of fact. So let's pick our guy here. We're going to do what's called scoping in. So this is a main feature in Dreams, so you can individually edit whatever you're into. So when you make a sculpture or you have anything at all, scoping in sort of takes you into the internal logic, let's say, of that thing. So you know you're scoped in when everything else is kind of black and white and your object is in color. So, and we can also scope into the logic here. So this is how they do logic. You'll have a microchip and all of the different types of things are put on this microchip. So it's sort of like a master bag of holding for all of your logic. And these things can get really complicated. Let's look at controller logic. Different chips. So the actual interface for the puppet, controller sensors, and health managers. So if we... And it'll show off all your connections. And if we want to select that and go on the tweak. So as you can see, there's a mini menu for every single thing. Input, output. And you can rig individual buttons, which is really nice, to do different things. We won't need to get that complicated, luckily. Where the camera sits.
Can you have more than one person work on a dream at once? So, if you had a team, you could have one person putting props and items in Y.
Yeah, it's not like a real-time cooperative thing, but you can do what's called collaborate. So you would take your project and share it with someone else, and then they could make changes and save it. And then you could make changes and save it, but it's not like two players can be in the dream at the same time working on different stuff, unfortunately. I don't know if that's going to be planned for the full release, or if it's just something that the PS4 cannot handle. But for now, if you want to share your project with someone, you can absolutely do that, and then they're credited also as a co-contributor.
This reminds me of LabVIEW. I hope it's not as much of a spaghetti tangle.
It does get very complicated, which is why for some of the more intricate stuff, I will be using other people's logic chips, because holy crap, this is it. You can figure it out if you're not like a computer controller person, coder, that type of a thing. But for somebody like me, who's just your average schmuck, it's a lot of trying to figure out what we're doing, and I'm not super good at it. So
plagiarism. Yay.
Let's here, I'll show you. Let's go to play mode. So whenever you make anything, you can play test it to make sure that it works the way you want it to. And I'll just show off the basics here. So we'll possess our little puppet friend. And their head moves. When you're using a move, they're a little wonky compared to the DS4. But they'll look where you look. Let's see if I can get around behind them. And then you can... And if you fall off the side, well, it just respawns you. So now we're out. We'll go back to edit mode. And we're going to delete our little puppet friend here because we don't need them just yet. Okay. So in order for us to build our crime scene, we're going to make a slightly larger play area. So we're going to select this. It won't move. Oh. Let me... Nope. Tools. Wrong. And we're going to unfreeze that just for a second. Okay. And so in order to make it easier to create things, and you don't have to if you made, let's say, made a rock, you don't have to individually sculpt every single rock. You can clone stuff. So let's see, we need to turn on guides, grid snap. So this will make it so everything aligns to this grid, which is nice so that your stuff is all level. And if you're just trying to put things perfectly perpendicular to other things, that's the way to go. So grid snap on, and we're going to make it a little bit finer. You can also set the size of the grid. So this will just make sure that everything lines up. And I think our playable area is just going to be a 2x2 square. So we're going to clone
I thought you
this.
could just do the thing you do with text boxes in Microsoft Word, pull on the corner to expand it.
You can't stretch individual pieces. I'm just going to use the clone here so that everything is exactly the way I want it. Okay, now we've cloned it. Whoop. And then you can select both of them, clone that again. Oh, it didn't take both for some reason. Let's undo that. Should do both at the same time. There we go. And line it up. Off just a little bit, so we'll reline. Okay, and now we have a square. Let's turn the grid off.
The way I see it, the crime scene was gonna be either the victim's office or a dark alley.
Yep, we're going with dark alley. And so we don't need the place itself to be super huge. Because we're going to try and put a lot of detail in here. Let's see if I can show hide. Where's thermometer? Okay. And so you have what's called a thermometer in Dreams, and it tells you how much of everything you have. A lot of your stuff is going to be graphics. Some of it's going to be gameplay. If one of these bars fills up, you can't add a whole lot more. It's like the limitations of what the PS4 will do. And so we want to keep our thermo as low as possible. And there's a few tricks you can use to keep that as low as possible. So for our 4x4, I'm going to bring out our puppet friend again. Just so we have a little bit of scale here. And they can just hang out. So we'll probably want to have some buildings, some alleyways, that type of a thing. And when we're done with it, we will make a door which will allow us to exit out and into a new scene or level, so that we can be fairly detailed in what we're doing in here.
Time to break out the brick walls and trash cans.
Yes, and there are some of those that are already set up. Made by other people, and we'll probably grab a couple of those just because individually sculpting bricks really sucks, and I'm glad for people that take the time to do such things. Alright, so we're going to go into what's called sculpt mode.
Seems to be a good size for an LET section.
Yep. We'll probably do we want to put our body like in a corner and then have stuff over here, or do we want to put it in the middle?
Yeah, I agree.
So middle?
Middle, probably.
Okay,
A bit of the street, 2 buildings, an alley.
let's do this then. We'll just shove our little guy right here so we have kind of an idea of where we're going to be setting everything up. Oh, he's drunk. Alright. And so we're going to go into what's called sculpt mode. This is where you'll do the majority of things. There's also paint, coat, style,
Should
effects.
we maybe lay him on his back or stomach?
This little guy is just for scale. We'll be putting in our actual victim a bit later. Maybe today, depending on how fast we get through things. And if not, then we'll do that at a later time. We'll end up using a different puppet for the body, one that doesn't have any logic in it, so it's not always trying to maintain a certain pose or stand up or anything like that. There will be no collision with a blank puppet that doesn't have any AI in it. Oops. See? Let's go back and use our tool again, because I forgot to unfreeze it. Freeze. All
This
right.
is random, but you sorta sound like MRS Incredible.
This is incredible. I've also been told I sound like one of the characters from God, what was the cartoon? The Spy cartoon on Cartoon Network? I never watched it, so... Alright, so let's zoom in here. So we have our guy. The floor won't move on us this time. And go into sculpt mode.
Totally Spies?
No, it's, I want to say Venture Brothers, but that's not it. So, when you go into sculpt mode, you have, it defaults to sort of a clay color. And you can choose different shapes, and you can manipulate these shapes. So one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to choose a finish. Default, plastic, shiny, rough. Since we're going to be making buildings, they're not going to be super detailed right now. And then we're going to change our color. How about a nice dark gray? That's too dark. That'll do for now. We can always go back and change it later. Well, that's not a very convincing building, and we want to change that. So one of the nice things about the moves
I'm thinking one of the buildings is a bar, and the other is a store of some sort, antiques, probably.
Yeah, so we're going to put like a bar, neighborhood bar / casino in here. And per the thread, we're going to call that Johnny Five Aces. And then Gladys, who is our busybody and our starting conversation, will be in another one of these buildings. That'll be her house, and we'll figure out, well, as we go. So what'll happen is Gladys's place will be somewhere that you can enter into to talk to her. So I'm thinking like maybe a T along here, exit out that way, and we'll put some buildings here. But we don't just want to use plain old boxy cubes. You can scale these things up, make them huge. You can make them really tiny.
I find it really annoying how the bot reading out what I say keeps interrupting you. It makes me feel kinda rude.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I get what you are.
Like I said, the live, what I'm doing is about 10 seconds ahead of the stream. That's just kind of the nature of the beast. So don't worry about that at all. I'll try and natter on and then get to questions as they pop up. But we don't just want to use a plain old cube here because, well, that's not very interesting. So when you use the moves, it's really easy. If you're familiar with the moves, they're basically like the Nintendo Wii controllers. Except they have a ball on the end made of rubber that lights up. And so if you smack those together, you can manipulate the shape. And since this is like 1940s post-war is the thing we're going for, I don't think skyscrapers, especially like back alley, is going to be really appropriate. But townhouses, sure, why not? So using our friend for scale here. So we'll slap a couple of buildings down here. And we're going to do this as one sculpt. That uses much less memory than doing everything individually. So we'll do some basics here. And we want to stamp and not smear. You can, smear will just, like you can drag and make a really long shape. But stamp is just a single thing, and that's what we want here. So let's see. So here's a building. The building can also act sort of as our walls, so we don't have to construct those in addition to everything else we're doing. Alright, and we'll drag that in a second. And let's make that a little smaller and change the shape. Maybe like a garage or something. Set our shape. That needs to be a little bit bigger. Smack that right up next to the other one. Neat thing too is that you can just, if you want to, oh, I am drunk. Well, we'll fix that in a second. You can just keep cloning this and doing it over and over and over again. So for just the cost of a couple of shapes, actually let's do that. I'm going to grab this. Oops. Back out here. So, and slap that down.
Late Eunice. It's super effective.
And so once you've made a sculpture, you can go back, scope in, and make tweaks to it. Try and line that up. Actually, let's put the grid back on. It's kind of clicky annoying, but at least it'll make it so stuff lines up. Drunk again. Oop. There's a precise move. There we go. These things work great, but they are just a little bit twitchy. Fuck. Turn that off, and grid snap is off. So let's rotate this so it's not in the floor. Actually, let's move these things up, get them aligned, and then slap
Man,
it down.
I'm glad my contributions are mostly going to be from writing. This sounds like it would infuriate me.
Some people are really, really, really good at this because they've had a lot of practice, and it does just kind of take a little getting used to.
If it's too fiddly with alignment at low angle, rotate it by a large angle, then rotate it back to where it's supposed to be.
Yep. Alright, that looks close enough. So let's back out. It's alright, you know, old buildings falling down. We'll just sink that in a little bit.
Can you fuse two items together?
Yes, so when you go into a sculpt is just anything that's made out of individual pieces. So you can edit a sculpt from inside or outside. Oh, there's our problem. They're lined up together, but not with the floor. You can go in and edit each individual sculpt. You can change it, add to it, subtract from it, and we'll show off some of those features here in just a bit. If I can get this fucking thing lined up. Alright, well at least it's sort of straight for now. We're just doing basic blocking here. So, if we assume, let's put Johnny's, say, over here. That still looks bad. Tools. Oop, guides. Floor. Where is it? Stay upright. And don't worry how ugly this is. I will go back in probably off stream and make sure everything lines up and is real pretty. Terrible architect I am. Look at that shit.
I'm assuming where our scale puppet is our alley, and there's another building on the other side of him from our current one, and they both.
Yes, so let's make a little alley space here. We'll have the alley go in here. We'll put Gladys's house here so she can overlook, well, her excuse for overlooking what happened, because she sits up in her window and watches everybody do their thing. So we can put, let's see, let's put Johnny's right here. So we'll make another big building, and same thing, colors.
I'm a little bummed Griffith didn't make the cut.
Griffith sounds like fun. It's just a matter of, like I said, scripting all of that shit. Because pathing, I know some people have probably, let's see, there's our person, so we gotta stretch it out like that.
You don't have to make him a follower if you don't want to.
Oh, it's one of those things where, like I said, it's the difficulty of it. So there is a
I'm
built-in,
fine with him just being another character.
There's a way to set followers, but the pathing AI would be a real problem, because say you want him to follow you at, you know, a distance of 5 feet no matter where you go. Well, you as the player are probably going to avoid things like buildings or lampposts or whatever, but the follower AI won't necessarily, so there's a good chance he'll get stuck on stuff. So let's put Johnny's right there. Whoop. And again, I'll go in and
Do
clean
you
all
have a
this
way
stuff
of
up.
knowing who is making the comment when you hear the comment bot?
Nope. I just get a little lady robotic voice in my ear telling me what someone said. I can look at the stream chat, but I do everything through my television, and so without flipping the inputs and seeing what people are reading, I have to rely on just what I'm hearing. So that looks good for Johnny's. And then, well, let's see, we don't want people to exit this area, so let's take this, scope out.
I love your imitation of the bot.
That's what she sounds like. And we're going to clone this. Let's see. let's see, since we don't want, let's put it this way. We don't want people to get out, run off the map, and have bad things happen to them.
There's just two of us, Junpei and, who are you, other guy?
Well, it's still drunk, but we'll just throw that there, because they'll still have to go in and fix it.
Junpei, it's literally, Sagun my dad.
Who is obligated to show up in every thread where someone says, well, my dad. Forums jobs, man. Yep. Alright. Then we'll do some additional building to keep people from wandering off the edge of the map.
My job was whiny bitch.
Okay. I sunk it into the floor. Actually, that needs to be a little bigger, so let's select it and make it a little bigger.
You joke, but I used to get messages from random goons asking me to show up in threads that mentioned ads.
Said that's your forums job. Some people's forums job is to shit up every thread. Okay. Well, excusing my my drunkenness, I think that'll work. Like I said, I'll probably go back in and edit this. So let's see. Let's we're gonna do some editing on Johnny's. So I'll scope on into Johnny. Here, the bar.
I'm looking at the puppet compared to the building, and I feel like the puppet could climb up onto the rooftop easy.
Yeah, let's scale that up a little bit. Where's our tools? Stretch. Get a little taller.
Bars need neon signs.
Oh yeah, we're gonna make that too. So that seems a good size. This kind of floating building over here is cracking me up. Again, I'll do the details later, so I don't have to watch me fiddle with things millimeter by millimeter. So what do we need for Johnny's? We're gonna need a door. It won't be interactive, but we should put a door on there. Maybe a window? Let's do this. So, scope in. Our square shape. Good. Let's make that a picture window. Set shape. Now one of the cool things you can do, it's a little thick. There we go. That seems a goodly shape. So one of the neat things you can do is
if
you can make your shapes
find a pre-made ace card somewhere for the
subtractive.
sign, it would be perfect.
Yeah, and if we can't find anything, we can always make it. It's not too difficult. So you can do subtractive shapes. So if you tap, oh, it doubled it. I didn't want mirror. There we go. So if you hit the bottom of your dominant hand controller on the ball of your offhand, then it becomes a negative shape. And you can cut into shapes and do all sorts of stuff that way. That'll work. Now, we're not going to actually sculpt the inside of this because that would be, holy crap, way too difficult and probably eat a good chunk of our thermo, which we want to save for our gameplay elements. So what we're going to do is, let's see, get a nice yellow color here.
I'm gonna do some detective work once the stream is over, try and find public domain music or sound effects to use. I'll post that in the thread.
I'll actually show off, if you want, I can show off some of the sound stuff. Now this is how we're gonna do this.
Are you using Move controllers?
Yes. So actually we're gonna pull that out and we're gonna do a thing here. So nope. Screwed that up.
Primordial archetype.
Scope back in. We're gonna delete that.
Hello.
Howdy. You'll have to say your name if you want me to acknowledge exactly who you are, because the actual stream chat is on something that I can't really see while I'm working. So now we're gonna back out and I'll show you how to do. Let's go back into our sculpts and whoop, don't want negative. Make that real thin. Let's see how that fits. Just scale it. That'll work. Okay, so I made a separate sculpture. Now we're going to back out. We're going to select that. We're going to go into what's called the tweak. So this will set the properties for... Yes, I know. Thank you very much. This will set the properties for that particular piece of sculpture. You can tint it, and we can do that from here. So let's pick a color. Kind of wanted a nice yellow, like the glow of a window. That'll work. And then original color saturation, hue, that's to cycle through. So a little shiny since it's a window. And we don't need a whole lot of waxiness there, but we do want glow. So let's make our little thing glow here a bit. Like a nice window. And you can choose different ways. We'll just put when visible. That means it won't be using thermo. And then cast shadows, which we don't need. Individual properties. So you can actually change the inside color of a sculpture. So you can do some really neat things, like for example, say you wanted to sculpt a tree. You could make the interior like a darker brown and the exterior a lighter brown, and then just use a negative space to cut into it so it creates a lovely texture. Same thing, color amount, glow. You can make an interior glow, so if you cut into something, the inside would glow. It's really fun. And then this is fleck properties. So everything in Dreams is made up of flecks. And the shape of those flecks kind of determines what your sculpture will look like. You can make it fluffier, loose. So if, for example, say you wanted to make not a building, because you want precise corners for, but maybe you wanted to make a rock where you don't want that super angular property, and so you could increase that, and it will make it just kind of a more floaty, rough, rounded sort of thing, and then perspective. So effects, we will be using these. Actually, I could show that off with our floor, because it's going to be rainy, since it's always raining in Noir, and we want to make that look rainy. So I'll show that off here in just a second. And then the physical properties. So do you want it movable, visible? This is good when you're doing certain sculpts, because you want a thing there, but you don't want it to be seen, especially when you're doing puppet stuff, because maybe you want to go in and make a new head or a face for your puppet. And if you don't line it up exactly with what's there, obviously, there's going to be clipping. But if you turn off the original head of the puppet as visible, then it doesn't matter. It's not going to show up if it's clipping. Collidable, so obviously whether or not you can clip through it. Friction, and this doesn't really matter for buildings and things like that. But like, especially if you're doing things like platformers, or if you've got moving parts in your scene, then how much friction determines how it's going to slide around. Bounce. So if you've got, again, colliding things, like the rebound. Squashiness.
For once, I want a noir story where it always snows instead of always rain.
We could see, the only thing, well, I guess accumulation wouldn't be much of a problem. We could literally paint a whole scene with snow, but that would take up a lot of our thermo. I'm sure someone's made a snow weather thing. We'll actually snag someone else's rain thing, so I don't have to make one. You can ignore gravity, and then interaction, collidable, grabbable, or ignore. So that would mean you just walk right through it. And then physics cost. So collision labels, you can set individual tags. So for example, objects, friend or foe, you can set individual sculptures with those
Jingle
tags,
bells, dead
and it
man
will
smells,
explain
cops a hard-boiled egg.
How they interact with that thing. And then your labels. And audio surface type. So like, for example, if you had made an outdoor level and you want your puppet to make sound, like they're walking across, say, gravel, you can do that. It's pretty neat. So we've got our stuff there. And since we got our window, but our window is separate from the bar right now, and we're going to fix that. So we're going to select it and scope in. Oh, wait a minute. So we're going to select these two, and then we're going to group them. So now they're part of the same entity. The sculpture is not separate from this anymore. And now if we scope in, we can move our little piece. And we have a nice glowy window. Look at that. Pretty neat. And we'll be able to see this in the overall. Later on, we will set the lighting. We can make it foggy. We're going to turn the saturation way down so that we get our black and white noir look. But I said I was going to show off some of the effects. So let's select. And do I have to turn freeze off every time I do that? Because I don't. Pain in the ass.
Neat. I like the end result.
Modes. Coats. So
Looks comforting.
we're going to make this shiny. And we're going to do this with all of our floor. Yeah, I gotta turn freeze off every time I want to do that. Boy, that really stinks. Alright, well, lesson learned. I guess we set all of our properties before we freeze it. Tools. Come on. Freeze. And unfreeze. And unfreeze. Unfreeze and unfreeze. Alright, let's exit our tool. And we're going to go back to coat mode. We're going to do our finish. So, different types. And we want the shiny. Actually, let's go shiny wax. It has a slightly different reflective property. So we're going to make our floor here really shiny. We're going to pump this all the way up. Yeah, that's good. And do the same with all of our floor pieces. Check the light. That needs to be shinier. Probably should have selected all of them at the same time, which I can do. Alright. So now we've got everything shiny. And we're also going to go into, let's back out of this. And style mode, coat mode, not coat mode.
Is that a sun?
Yeah, there is always a...
is there a sun above you?
Kind of an ambient... There it is. So that's the default kind of universal lighting. And like I said, we can mess with that so that things look different. We can also set this background here, which we'll do. And I don't want coat mode. I want... style mode? Nope. It is coat mode. So we're going to tint this. We're going to change the color just a little bit. I want that really dark gray. Because it's supposed to be asphalt. There we go. Do it to max so that way everything's equal. And again, if I did it all at the same time, well, that would be easier. Alright, so now we've got some asphalty looking stuff. We'll back out, and then save ourselves some time and select our floor. No, actually, yeah, let's group all that into the same thing. There we go. So now it's one piece, not 4 separate ones. And effects mode. So, well, let's look at our floor here. Shiny, and it's textured, but we want to make it look like it's raining. And so this is where your effects mode comes in. And there are different types of effects. So you can make stuff look like water, evaporation, kind of a pulsing thing. And we want boil. So here's what it looks like at base. But if we add the boil effect, well, now the surface looks like water, which is pretty goddamn neat. There you go. And that'll go along with our rain. So now wherever the sidewalk is, or pavement, or whatever
It
you want to
looks
call
like
it.
raindrops are hitting it.
Exactly. So you can make all sorts of things doing stuff that you probably wouldn't think about normally, but with those effects and the coatings and things like that, you can do a lot of really cool stuff. I'm a big fan of the way that Dreams does things and makes it easy. Because imagine if you were, programming from scratch. I'm not a computer programmer, but I imagine that if you were writing code for that, boy, that would be a pain in the ass. But they've done all the work for you, which is really, really, really cool. So we'll exit out of there. And here, let's show that off. So this acts as though anything that's animated or whatever is playing when you hit the play button. And that shows off our rain. Stop that. So what do we have so far? We've got a glowy window. We've got wet pavement. We still got to sculpt Gladys's house. And then...
How long is the stream gonna last?
Let's see, what time is it right now? So we've been going for about an hour. I guess I can take a vote. Do folks want to end here? And we can do some more, say, maybe midweek? Or I can go for a bit longer.
I wanna keep going.
Okay.
I'd say a bit longer.
All right.
I'm not busy.
Neither am I. Okay. Well, let's start at least on Gladys's house then. So back into sculpt mode we go.
It's a bit late here, but sure.
Let's do, say, another 15-20 minutes. That should at least be able to get us to block out Gladys's house. And then, like I said, I can do stuff off stream. And just make it as a bonus video so people can see what I did without having to sit through the stream, or they can skip through it or whatever. Plus, I can speed it up. Let's see, what's our color?
That works for me.
Now, with Gladys's house, we're actually going to use a different color because her house is going to be like a little wooden structure. Sometimes these colors look a bit strange. Yeah, that's more woody. So what I had in mind for Gladys's house is, you have kind of all these garages and industrial type buildings, but hers is just going to be like a little bungalow.
So less glowing
type
yellow
house.
neon and more soft brown.
Yes, exactly. So, let's see, what's the easiest? Let's just make it a square, and then we'll just kind of tweak the proportions with the stretch tool. So, big enough to be a 2-story house. Try not to, Okay, and we got that mostly on the ground, I think. Alright, so we got alleyway, little front yard, and her window, which is what we'll need to see. We'll probably put a little garage there. So, tools, stretch, pull that out just a bit. Let's see, where's our, so, Make it just a little bit taller. And then, yeah, that looks good. I'd rather have it sink to the ground a little bit than be hovering 2 feet off of it.
Square pyramid roof.
Yeah, so we'll make the roof now, actually, and we're going to use a different shape, and maybe a slightly different color. So let's go back into shapes, and we've got pyramid. I'll scale that up. I want a different color. Let's see, what's a good roof color? Kind of a bricky color, does that look good? And you can make like a more shallow pyramid.
I think it should be a slightly metallic blue.
Metallic blue, huh? Alright. Like a... Does that look good? And if you want metal, let's change our finish.
Doesn't really make sense, but I guess aluminum roof or something. Never mind. That bricky reddish brown works.
Alright, so we want to stick with the kind of brown? That was a red.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. That's weird because I thought... Let's back out of that for a second.
The pyramid roof should have a square base, not a triangular base, though.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the pyramid. I thought it was 4-sided, but it might be 3-sided. Shape editor. Let's try that. So square and wait, what? On 2 and square on 1 while holding the pyramid to open the shape editor for double hair. Yeah, and it's nice because every single thing has help. Although it seems a bit sensitive to me, like if I hover over something for, 1.5 seconds instead of 1, it'll give you the help menu. And I don't think there's a way to tweak that. Alright, so triangle on left and holding the pyramid to open the shape editor. Oh, maybe we have to stamp it first. There we go. So let's take a look here. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be three-sided, so that won't work. So let's get rid of that. Let's see. All right, we'll back out.
I think it said you can add an angle in that menu.
Whoop. Hooray for undo. Wait a minute. What are you doing? I think I accidentally deleted something there. Nope. Stretch. Really?
I could be wrong, though.
How the hell? Something fucked up there. Well, we'll just make it bigger. Not guides. Yep. Tools. We're still... Instead of... Oh, that's what happened. Somehow the original got deleted, so now it's metallic reddish brown, but we can fix that. "90% of the stream is watching me unfuck my fuck-ups. Hooray." Alright, so we'll just use the... not tools. Use coat mode. Change it back to rough. And back to our original.
Couldn't that be said of all
brown.
life?
This is true.
Game dev in a nutshell.
Unfucking my fuck-ups. Yes, thank you very much. Coat mode. Hue finish. That's what we want. There we go. Now it's rough instead of shiny metal. Go me. Alright, well, since that took a little longer than expected, how about we end the stream here? And I will do some more tweaking on this, get our buildings all lined up, fix some of our problems. But we have a good start to our game.
All right.
And like I said, I will do some stuff off stream, but I will record it, and then we'll make a bonus video for the thread showing some more stuff. I was planning on streaming on the weekends, but I can maybe do a midweek stream here and there.
See you in the thread.
Work a normal job hour type thing, so it wouldn't be
We'll
until
talk more about the plot.
USA evening. So if anyone's a Euro folk, it would be the middle of the night, but you can always catch up with either rewatching the stream. I will archive them on the website, and maybe some bonus videos along there, but not a bad start for a little over an hour of work, and I'm a little out of practice, so I haven't played with this in a good long while. But once I kind of get back into the swing of things, I hope things will go much faster. So, all right, everyone. Well, thanks for watching. Yeah, jump back in the thread and we can talk plot stuff, or now that you kind of have an idea maybe of how the game design works, you know, the sculpting and things like that, then we can talk about details like, you know, what do we want Gladys's house to look like? Are there any other features we want to stick in here? That type of a thing. So, thanks for watching, and I'll check you guys in the thread. Thanks so much.